Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. The European Union imposes sanctions on 19 officials in Venezuela. This story takes the lead in our 1055th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Wednesday, 24th February 2021. Details after this break.
Did you know that your friends and family can now shop at the Food Fair from anywhere in the world? And you can receive here in Grenada? The Food Fair and GrenadaMarket.com now make it possible through secure online shopping and personalized customer service. Simply send your loved ones a list of your preferred items or let them fill an online basket and the items will be available for pickup or delivery. Visit GrenadaMarket.com or thefoodfair.gd today for more details. The new norm. Spread the news.
Welcome back. The Council of the European Union (EU) on Monday imposed sanctions on 19 leading Venezuelan officials, including generals, politicians, and judges from President Nicolas Maduro's regime, who it accused of undermining democracy in Caracas. The individuals added to the list are responsible, notably, for undermining the opposition's electoral rights and the democratic functioning of the National Assembly, and for serious violations of human rights and restrictions of fundamental freedoms, the Council said in a statement. The individuals include the governor of oil-producing Zulia State, Oman Prieto, top military commander Remigio Caballos, and members of the non-democratically elected National Assembly, Jose Brito and Bernabe Gutierrez. The total number of Venezuelan officials subject to sanctions, which include an embargo on arms and on equipment for internal repression, and the imposition of travel bans and asset freezes on listed individuals, now stand at 55. The Council of the European Union said its targeted measures are not designed to have adverse humanitarian effects or unintended consequences for the Venezuelan population and can be reversed. The EU will continue to engage work with all stakeholders in Venezuela to promote peaceful dialogue and a democratic and sustainable solution to the crises in the country, it said. The European Union introduced restrictive measures on Venezuela in November of 2017. Trinidad and Tobago must not fall into the hands of vaccine charlatans. Words of caution coming from Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. TV6's Alicia Boucher has some details.
Caroni East MP Dr. Rashad Sechuran has noted that the 120,000 doses of AstraZeneca TNT is set to receive in March would only vaccinate 5% of the population. At least 1 million among the population need to be vaccinated for herd immunity. But with the availability of vaccines being a global concern, Dr. Sechuran states that the government was too reliant on the World Health Organization COVAX initiative, questioning why did TNT not approach India sooner for vaccines, since as much as 92 other countries, including those within CARICOM, did since January. But Prime Minister and Chairman of CARICOM, Dr. Rowley, says although CARICOM had concerns about the COVAX plan and the availability of vaccines since that time, the way forward was shrouded in uncertainty.
By January, when some confirmations were had that some vaccines were approved, what was happening was that the path towards accessing vaccines for countries like ours was not clear or was not there at all.
Dr. Rowley notes that in June 2020, an arrangement was also put in place for CARICOM countries to access COVID vaccines through the African Union, with procurement from the 18th of January and delivery between March and April 2021. The Prime Minister says that CARICOM initiative was to get a listening ear outside of the COVAX facility.
If you were a small purchaser, you were not even listened to or entertained by the suppliers who were out there under the control of the bigger, more powerful countries. So outside of COVAX, there was virtually no supply available to small countries like us. Small countries are not even being allowed through the door to place the order. It is wrong to say that CARICOM countries have received their vaccines and are vaccinating their population. That is not happening.
So, how did Barbados and Dominica wind up with a gift of vaccines from India?
There was an explosion in Barbados, which was centered on Barbados's prison and police. That created a national security problem for Barbados.
And in that dilemma, Dr. Rowley says, Barbados stepped ahead of the CARICOM plan and petitioned 3 countries, including India, for assistance.
And Dominica, having had a serious crisis in recent past, was also seen as a country that required some attention, and India also gave Dominica some vaccines. There was no pathway opened to go and get gifts by asking for it.
While Dr. Sicharan has listed a host of global and regional countries that have gotten their hands on vaccines, Dr. Rowley says the demand is so high that extreme caution must be taken, as some countries look to Russia, China, Cuba, and elsewhere to acquire vaccines. The Prime Minister says TNT will continue to err on the side of caution and stick to the policy.
We will only order, buy, and bring into this country vaccines that have been approved by the WHO.
The Prime Minister says bilateral talks would continue to secure a second source for vaccines, citing concerns by the WHO that the behaviors of large countries who are buying up vaccines can threaten and undermine the fight against COVID-19. Furthermore, he says prices are also being hiked up for certain countries, moving from $2.72 US per dose in India to $3.25 US in Europe, and in Uganda, $8.50 US per dose.
I could tell you, there are people hanging around us here in Trinidad and Tobago, some nationals of Trinidad and Tobago, and some of them in the medical fraternity, seeking to assist, quote unquote, us with vaccine, and they're quoting prices to us, thinking that we are in desperation, prices in the order of $19 and $25 a dose. What we have to be careful with as a country, Trinidad and Tobago, is not to fall into the hands of charlatans.
Dr. Rowley is calling on Dr. Sicharan to assist the governments in the international and local fight against COVID-19. Alicia Boucher, TV6 News.
They've already been denied 3 times, and according to them, unjustly so. Still, they're asking for another opportunity. Representatives of Patriotic Energies and Technologies Limited joined TV6 on set, where they issued a call to government to meet with them and treat with the issue. Renessa Cutting of TV6 News reports.
It appears 3 consecutive rejections aren't enough to deter Patriotic from its quest to operate the refinery, as they remain adamant that they did in fact meet the requirements to acquire the assets.
There's essentially nothing fundamentally wrong with the bid or flawed with the bid by Patriotic, and we would challenge the government, therefore, that it has to return to the table.
Despite their request to meet and treat with the issues, Director Ozzy Warwick admits they are suspicious of government's motives, given its past handling of the situation.
Parties who have, to me, professional integrity will engage in a real dialogue. You know what they did? No, send me a letter. Okay, we're sending you a letter confirming that we've secured the financing and this is the proposal of the structure. Can we meet to discuss it, to see if there's anything that may be discomforting to you? No, we have to hear about it in a press conference. You tell me, which multinational would have been treated in that way?
Warwick also feels the finance minister was disingenuous in his representation of Patriotic's proposal, which he believes was portrayed as having no real benefit to the people of TNT.
He also did not mention that the $500 million for restart has already been secured. That is $500 million in investment into Trinidad and Tobago. He also did not mention the fact that Patriotic will be paying its taxes, $75 to $100 million US a year in taxes. He does not also state that if once the refinery is up and running, there will be savings in terms of precious foreign exchange, because remember, we are importing fuel at the moment.
Still, Patriotic remains committed to the cause despite the odds.
Let's say the government come back now and say, well, okay, what about a lease arrangement?
Well, I think we would look at any option. But for us to look at an option, you have to talk to us, right?
To date, government has had no meeting with Patriotic. Renessa Cutting, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
The president of the InterAmerican Development Bank IDB, Mauricio Clava Carone, has collaborated with a coalition of 40 global corporate executives in launching an historic partnership in aiding Latin America and the Caribbean's recovery in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Claver Carone recently hosted an inaugural private sector partners roundtable on the future of Latin America and the Caribbean. Meeting as a coalition, the business leaders pledged to work together in 3 areas that will be critical to post-pandemic economic recovery: empowering women, accelerating digitalization, and strengthening regional value chains, according to the IDB. The Washington-based financial institution said the leading private sector executives discussed the historic challenges and unique opportunities to drive growth and investment in the region. The IDB said that Latin America and the Caribbean have been hit harder by the pandemic than any other region, adding that they deserve a robust response. The IDB said the business leaders signed a partnership declaration and pledged to work with the IDB to mobilize resources in 3 critical areas outlined. Following the coalition event, the IDB said it is now convening action-oriented working groups with corporate partners to solidify partnership opportunities in each of the priority areas identified. Jamaica is still having a hard time with COVID-19, so much so hospitals are nearing capacity. More in this TVJ News item as shared with us by O'Shane Masters.
As hospitalizations from COVID-19 rise island-wide, Cornwall Regional Hospital in Montego Bay St. James has now run out of bed spaces on the COVID-19 ward. Director of the Western Regional Health Authority, Errol Green, last night said other hospitals in the region are also filling up.
Cornwall is at 100%. Null homes is at 95%. No complaints out of staff. I just spoke to the CEO. Not aware of anything unusual, but the numbers are just coming in, so she let me know. And I'm not getting anything out of Palmont. But if there was a problem at Palmont, I would have known. So yes, we do have a concern at Cornwall.
However, Mr. Green says Cornwall Regional is not turning away patients.
Nobody's being turned away. Nobody's being turned away. Nobody, I can tell you, nobody's being turned away. The staff is a bit overwhelmed. We had some staff shortage today. Persons calling sick that were expected to be at work. But we managed to call in other staff, and people doubled up and so on. But I'm not aware of anybody being turned away. No.
The number of patients hospitalized yesterday stood at 245, with 29 listed as critically ill and 68 diagnosed as moderately ill. On February 11, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said another 133 beds would have been added in coming days. Some of those would come from 2 field hospitals built at Falmouth in Trelawney and St. Joseph's Hospital in Kingston, and a temporary structure to be repositioned at Spanish Town Hospital in St. Catherine. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has provided a breakdown of the $978 million it intends to spend on resources to ensure a successful national vaccination program. This is in addition to the $5 billion allocated for procuring COVID-19 vaccines.
Calling all vehicle owners, inspection and licensing continues, and at Hubbard's we want you to be ready. From February 16th to March 31st, registration numbers 2,501 to 5,000 with single registration letter, or registration numbers 251 to 500 with plural registration letters will receive 11% off new torque tires and PowerMax batteries. Don't get caught unprepared. Visit us today at the Motor Department in Mount Gay or the Tire Bay in Grand Anse near to the building supplies.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.